Good morning, guys. Today in climatology for the unit 5, we'll be looking at what exactly is a climate classification and a building design strategies. For this, we would start off by understanding how the climate is basically classified. So if you see, the parameters for classification would include your dry bulb temperature, your relative humidity, your solar radiation, your wind speed, your wind direction, the cloud cover, rainfall, etc. So if you see all of these things put together, it basically starts off with your temperature. So temperature is nothing but your monthly mean of a daily maxima and your monthly mean of a daily minima and the standard deviation of the distribution. So taking this into sub categories, we would like try and come to the conclusion of a temperature. Your humidity would be your early morning relative humidity to the early afternoon humidity, in which is taken into percentage into consideration. Your solar radiation would be your monthly mean daily total, and your wind would be your prevailing wind speed and the direction. The rainfall would be your monthly total. So looking at all of this thing, how do you think like these are actually the parameters which go into classification? But this thing, when you try and implement in our country, India, like how actually this climate classification is going about. So taking these factors, parameters into consideration, the climatic classification in India is categorized into six types. So roughly six types, where it is warm and humid, the cold and dry, the cold cloudy, moderate, the composite, hot and dry, in which this warm, humid, cold, dry, moderate, composite and hot and dry are the main elements. The cold and cloudy is not taken much into consideration. So looking at this, how it goes about is that the classification of the tropical climates, that is in tropical regions of the earth, are divided into three major climatic zones. And those are actually your three major subgroups, which is nothing but your warm and humid equatorial climate, your hot, dry desert or semi-desert climate, and the other would be a composite or your monsoon climate. So this warm and humid equatorial climate is nothing but the subgroup warm humid island or the trade wind climate is also known as. Your hot dry desert or semi-desert climate is nothing but a subgroup to be your hot dry maritime desert climate. And a composite or middle is nothing but subgroup of your tropical upland climate. So looking at this climates and how majorly classified, taking into examples of a few places in India, how it's actually categorized for a better understanding. We will see your hot and dry climate in Jaisalmer, your composite climate in Delhi, your warm and humid in Trivandrum, tropical upland climate in Bangalore. So looking at this in hot and dry climate, if you see, look at a few major key elements in this, it goes about to be, it's majorly hot and somewhat it has a cooler period. So it has a drastic change in morning to night. So it goes about 27 to 49 degrees Celsius, whereas the humidity is moderate to low. It has a less to almost no cloud cover. The air is very dry and it has very less vegetation. Due to a direct solar radiation, the precipitation is 50 to 150 mm per year, and the thermal winds are usually with dust and sand. So looking at this, you can understand that overall the Jaisalmer being a desert, like how the climatic condition is and how its overall dry climate, the classification of its climate is. And whereas if you look at the composite climate in Delhi, or similar to our area, like in India, like major parts, it would be you have two seasons, whereas 2/3 would be a hot and dry, and the 1/3 would be a warm, humid. So it's kind of a mix of two climates. So you have your sky is very bright and cloudy, the winds will be hot but dusty, and your precipitation goes about from 500 to 1300 mm per year. And then you see the plant grows and dries out very quickly in these conditions. When taking into consideration of your warm and humid Trivandrum, that's more of a coastal region where we are from, you have very little seasonal variations at 27 to 32 degrees Celsius. Your RH being high, about 75%, is fairly cloudy. The wind velocity is low and usually comes from two directions. The solar radiation is reflected or scattered. The precipitation is from 2000 to 5000 mm per year. The vegetation grows very quickly, and the algae growth, the rusting and the rotting is also very high. So if you understand like how this overall climate is, you have this warm and humid areas in Trivandrum that's more to the coastal side. Going a little bit more upland, you have this tropical upland climate, which is in Bangalore. It's being a little bit of in the mountains regions, and you have a mix of plateaus. The seasonal variations are very small. So the precipitation, if you see, is 1000 mm per year, and it's clear sky and partly cloudy. The winds are variable. It has a very rich green vegetation and the heavy dew on fog. So if you see the overall, even in the tropical climates, these are like four major subdivisions. And looking at this, how we would proceed is what we would see. So it's talking about, we could see a few graphs going about like to for better understanding of how we should design for our particular areas. So usually the design for warm and humid in a climatic graph, for example, in Chennai, like how the lighting is and how what is the lighting value is, how is it exactly procedure, and what's the wind speed, how the ray lighting is, how the temperature is. Using the graph as a consideration, we would try and understand how overall the planning is. So if you look at this thing, how exactly the form and planning goes about, air being a major contributor for the design value, we would have to try to understand the movement of air. So if the air movement is not provided properly, then what happens is that the indoor temperature will be more as compared to a shaded outdoor areas. So open elongated plans for the buildings with a single row of buildings to allow the cross ventilation to happen. The such rooms may be accessible from open verandas, which can also provide shading. The doors and windows should be as large as possible to, to let the air and the continuous movement of air to be there. The group of buildings can be spread off, so there is proper circulation going about and the movement of air is not disrupted in any way. The building orientation should be according to the direction of air movement. The hard paving also reflects the sunlight and causes uncomfortable glare, so care should be taken to avoid this glare. So you have to try and understand how this overall the planning in aspects, the form should be, and how the overall the movement should be, and how the the surrounding area is supposed to be is planned off, taken into consideration with the movement of air. If you see a few other prime parameters, that would be your radiation, your air movement. If you're looking at it, looking at your climatic implications, your aid or hinder, you should try and either aid or hinder your natural ventilation. The perimeter to area ratio is very important. So basically, the area, how much air it's placed, and what is surrounding it, knowing the direction of the air movement, the plant form can be determined as to create high pressure and the low pressure areas. So we had seen, we'll try moving forward and see, look at a few areas, such as if we were talking about the windward side and the leeward side and how the movement is going about and how your building would contribute to it. So if you look at the large perimeter to area PA ratio, so what exactly it's going to be about? So if you have a large perimeter to area ratio, the small area is actually bounded by a large perimeter. Thereby, there is being greater radiative heat gain during the day, but greater heat loss during the night. Whereas if you have a small perimeter to area ratio, the same area won't be with a much smaller perimeter. What happens is that you have a lesser heat gain in daytime and a lesser heat loss during the night time. So that's all for how the plant form actually affects it. So going about into your building design, you're talking about your hot, dry climates. It should be kept, it should be overall kept to a minimum. So the cold climates, the area should be very kept to the minimum, so they are tightly packed and actually helps in reducing the heat loss. So PA should be kept in minimum. This ensures the minimum heat loss. The heat gain can be achieved through solariums, etc. So you solve one issue by actually keeping them together, but then again, you have your heat gain to be very less, which is required during this things. I mean, like in case if you want a heat gain, so what you could do is that solariums, you could use them for that. So in case of your warm, humid climates, what happens is that you require a maximum, because of humidity, you have to have maximum air movement. And thereby to have the maximum air movement, you also try and have a reduced PA ratio to actually minimize the heat gain to cut off the warm areas. Yeah. So talking about your surface area to the volume ratio. Okay, so how exactly does this work? So the prime variation or prime parameter, because which has to be considered for this, is your radiation. So how exactly is the radiation? I mean, the area that is going to be radiated because of the sunlight is what we'll see, and how you could reduce it, thereby reducing the overall radiation or the heat gain. So in this climatic implication, what you could see, the surface to the volume ratio, the three-dimensional exploration of the perimeter to area ratio is taken into consider. What it happens is that this overall helps determine the heat loss and the heat gain. So the greater the surface area, the more heat loss or heat gain. So this is very interrelated with your perimeter to area ratio. Thereby, both things put together is going to help you understand what it's trying to say. Yeah. So now going about your building design. In building design, how exactly supposed to be like this three subcategories, what we'll be saying is that hot and dry climates, what happens is that the surface to your volume ratio should be as low as possible to minimize the heat gain. In whereas it should be as low as possible to minimize the heat loss in a cold and climate. Whereas warm and humid areas, it should not be low, it should be high, so that the flow is more, the movement is more. So the materials used should not store heat. So you're having it, the volume to be more, but then again, you should take into consideration that it should no way store heat. Yeah. So how this elements, now going off to about your plan elements, the plan elements to help in ventilation, how the elements that are like nearby your building are going to help overall. So talking about how your shaded overhang roofs are going to be helped. So good roof and ceiling insulation is required. It should be a lightweight constructions. If it was in case, like talking about, warm and humid climates, how you have to have a protected shaded courtyard with trees and going about, try and make sure that, the overhangs try and protect your windows from the lighting that you during your high altitude or low altitude summer explosions. Yeah. Your other plan elements would be like you should like, because in case of the humid areas, no water bodies, evaporative cooling won't work in the humid climates. The vegetation should be there to absorb the radiation. Your courtyards and verandas are very suitable for the warm and humid climates, which actually lead to their very airy structures. So because for humidity, you have to have increased air movement. So thereby you take into consideration of your courtyards and verandas that is going to be helping about to create a very airy structure. So looking at your building orientation, the building design, the sun travels from east to west through south. In the northern hemisphere, the north faces receives minimum direct radiation. This is entirely true only for latitudes far from equator. So in areas is very close to the equator, even the north face receives equal radiation, southern face receives more radiations in the winter. So you have to try and see that you have to, understanding the location of a particular area would helps us attain that how the movement of the sun is going to be, how the wind movement is going to be. So taking all of these things into consideration, you could actually try and, cut short and, like it's going to help you define what is required and how is it supposed to be for in a particular place. So it sets guidelines for you to design your building. So it also determines the amount of radiation it receives, the amount of natural ventilation it receives. So overall, all the things are going to be like given to you at hand, because depending upon the climate, this is so and so condition. So this is how it's going to be, and this is what is required. So thereby, if you were to design a building in that particular area, having a checklist of so and so things are the required, you just check the list and you help attain a very proper building that's very suitable for the particular climate. So if you can see like how the buildings are planned, to have the proper air movement, how to have the cross ventilation which is required in this particular zones, how this wind is supposed to be, overall try and moving about from here and there, how it should have a free access for the wind for it to pass through from one building to other, and take it such that it's aligned in such the way such that it takes a maximum usage of the prevailing winds. Now going about for your roof form. So looking at the climatic implications, it can be used as a source of daylighting into the building. Its form and the overhangs affects the air movement pattern. So you have to try and see how the roof form also plays a major role, as we had looked at the diagram. So your building design, in case of your hot and dry climates, what it has to have is that it has to unshaded roof lights are undesirable. So basically, by adjusting the roof projections with respect to the building with pressure differences between the windward and the leeward side can be increased or decreased. Thus, ventilation rates can be controlled. So all how they are trying to implicate and how to understand this overall using your roof form. Whereas in conditions such as your hot and dry as well as in your cold climate, what the major aim is to, it is actually to minimize the natural ventilation, because you don't want either the hot air to come in or even the very cold air to come in. So in these cases, what they do is that the flat roofs are very undesirable. Sorry, flat roofs are desirable. So the width in the direction of the airflow should be as large as possible. So going about whereas in the warm and humid climates, the natural ventilation is desirable and the building should have its longest dimension perpendicular to the direction of the wind. So what happens is it tries to let in as much air as possible. The roof overhangs and the pitch should be high to increase the pressure differences. So as you increase the pressure differences on the windward side, the flow of the air and the movement of air and the pressure with which the air comes increases. Now, after the roof overhangs, we're also talking about your fenestration orientation. We're talking if it's going to be a cross ventilation or if it's not going to be, try and avoid as much as possible. So the prime parameters which are with fenestration orientation which achieve is your radiation and your air movement. Okay, so to obtain a good distribution of airflow within a building, the wind direction and the inlet to the outlet direction should not be the same. So what it does is that it allows better air circulation instead of air just passing straight away. So the orientation of the fenestration determines the amount of radiation incident on the opening. The orientation with respect to the air pattern could increase or decrease the natural ventilation. So it's talking about how the particular, like your fenestration is or the opening is going to be oriented, may plays a major, a major role in how much your radiation and your ventilation is going to be happening. So in case of your building design for your hot and dry climates, what it says is that it's better if your orientation is more oriented towards the northern direction. In the cold climates and the cold climates, the south-facing fenestrations are preferable. Now, in your warm and humid climates, orientate with 45-degree at the particular to the direction of the airflow. So what happens is that the inlet and the outlet should not be in a straight line. So what happens is that when you have your building at oriented exactly the 45-degree angle to the airflow, it has the maximum value of the air movement. So you could see overall, if so and so locations, they are trying to work out if so and so is a location, and if the airflow is at straight degree, the values are very less, whereas if only they had been inclined at a 45-degree angle, automatically the values increase, okay, to achieve the maximum amount of the airflow within the building. So looking at also your external colors and texture, another parameter that we would be seeing in this thing would be, in this what these the colors and texture contribute would be for your radiation. So the climatic implications, what it affects would be the surface characteristics affects the heat transmission into the building. The color of the surface affects its reflectivity and therefore heat is absorbed. The surface texture can be smooth to rough to smooth. A rough texture surface, what it does is that it causes self-shading. So thereby it also increases the area of re-radiation. A flat surface arouses greater heat transmission, and a smooth flat surface would be more reflective and would minimize heat gain. A light colored finish is more reflective than a dark color surface. So basic knowledge how we're going to be working on these things areas, and how different textures also play a major role in it. So how do you work out in your different climatic conditions? So in case of your hot climates, the surface color should be light, the texture should be rough. So the texture should be rough. So what happens is that this results in greater reflectivity, shading, and re-radiation. So if the rough texture is not possible, then a smooth surface would be preferable in such areas. In case of your cold climates, the surface texture should be dark and flat and not too smooth. So what happens is you need to increase the heat gain and reduce reflectivity. So this ensures maximum absorption and minimum shading and re-radiation. Whereas in case of warm and humid areas, you want to try and reduce the heat gain. So what you do is that you have very light colored surfaces and you have a rough textured finish to help attain this comfort zone. Looking at your overall design principles, what we have is that your aim is actually to reduce the internal temperature, maximum ventilation rates, to increase the effectiveness of the sweat evaporation and provide protection from the sun, rain, and insects. So it's talking about how in this humid areas, like what are the major design principles would have to be achieved. And then going about the use of your large doors and windows to promote your cross ventilation, your open planning and wide free spaces between the buildings. You're raising the buildings on stilts to cool the floor and raise the windows for better ventilation. Orientation should be determined by the prevailing breezes, large overhangs to protect from the internal spaces from the solar radiation. So this is all basically your design the principles. And we also have a few said this thing. So if you start off with basic elements, these goes about to be like, what we had already seen. So we need a lot of ventilation to be there. So what are the factors that could be applied to actually bring in the ventilation is what we've seen. Next, we will also be looking at how it is going to be used for overall heat gain and also for your others. Talking about the insects, what we had seen. So we could use though the increased ventilation would also result in a lot of insects. So we could use sliding screens to protect from the storms and also insects at night. Use of a low thermal mass materials to minimize the heat storage. Use of a double roofs with 2 layers with air gaps to provide a ventilated air space that would actually reduce the heat gain and also the heat loss. And also taking into consideration of your use of highly insulating materials on roof. So overall, how does things overall play in climate? So we had looked at about how we had taken into consideration for Chennai. Now looking at a few composite climate where two factors come about. For example, in New Delhi, what happens is that the farm and planning, you have your moderately compact planning. The courtyard type of buildings are very suitable in these conditions. The group buildings in such a way as to take maximum air movement when necessary. A moderately dense, low-rise development is suitable for these climates. So what happens is that during with this, it actually ensures the protection of our outdoor spaces. It gives us a mutual shading of external walls, shelter from winds in cold seasons, and shelter from dust and reduction of the surfaces exposed to solar radiation. So in your form and planning, how it goes about is that the houses with separate day and night rooms. For example, the ground floor with a heavy walls for day rooms, with first floor with thin walls for your night rooms. So your subcategories for your day and night, and thereby you have different because it's a composite mix. You try and achieve both. Okay. So to provide rooms with a roof with a low transmittance value and a good thermal capacity. External spaces would be you have a large projecting eaves and wide verandas. To provide shading devices or louvers, it should be of a low thermal capacity. Deciduous plants can be provided, and then also you have the courtyards should be designed in a way such as to provide low sun penetration during the winter months but provide shading in the hot seasons. The courtyards can be covered with pergolas with deciduous creepers. This would provide shade in the hot seasons but admit the sun in the winter. If you see like how overall like few elements they are trying to show in picture representing how the fountains can aid in the evaporative cooling, how proper orientation, what's the proper orientation would be if you were to have a linear form, and how the ideal platform should be to have the minimum heat transfer and to divert the winds from it. Okay, the grass and how you could have a green cover nearby to help your chain and re-radiation. And then also talking about how the overhangs are supposed to be, or you have shading devices. So chajjas and fins can help you keep the interior cool, and also overhangs to help the shading. So it has to be a flexible design. So even in let it be in summer or in winter, how it could help achieve the overall area. Yeah. So now looking at your roofs and walls, the retention of your nighttime low wall temperature is desirable. Same properties can be useful in the cold seasons to retain the heat. The roof and the external walls should be of solid masonry or the concrete walls with the time lag of 9 to 12 hours. The orientation of openings, how it's supposed to be. So going about it towards the breeze prevailing during the warm humid season to utilize its cooling effect. Towards the sun during the cold season to utilize the heating effect of radiation entering through the windows. Now looking at your ventilation and condensation, two small openings. If you look at how you could see that how the wind could be diverted and how the airflow is totally dependent upon the overhangs or your shading devices or the way you're the oriented of your opening or your fenestration. So two small openings, one in the high level and the other one in the low level, the ventilation stacks may provide actually a solution. So it's rare at the end of a rainy season where the RH of the air is high. When the surface of the wall or the ceiling is cold enough to cool the adjacent layer of the air below is dew point. So that's where that's what its terms means in the condensation in the aspect of your building. So your tropical upland or Bangalore, which is a moderate condition, what happens is that you could see that this is like particular temperature and how it's going to be have a number of clear days in a month. So this is a climate which is generally comfortable. That's neither too hot nor too cold, and where all of us should be. It's like people prefer staying in the Bangalore because like it's very comfort mode. It's a composite climate. Now all you need to do is to be shaded and insulated from the direct sun. So let it be a little breeze when you feel stuffy or warm, and shut the window if it is chilly, or wear some light ones. So you have to be it has to be like a condition where you just have to meet a few basic conditions. So looking at it, how it goes about is that during protection from again overheating, the provision of adequate shading both for windows and for external activity areas by limiting the heat admission through insulation, etc. If the building is overheated, this can be counteracted by the provision of adequate ventilation. The cold discomfort may occur at night, even in the even in the warm season. The providing a closable internal environment, storing some of the heat gained from the solar radiation to remit it at night during the cold period can be few methods that could be chosen. With the aspect of your form and planning, the building should be reasonably compact. So what happens is that the main points would be to, when it is compact, the main points would be to keep a balance between the conflicting requirements, seek solar radiation gain in winter and provide shading in summer. To provide the wind protection in winter and proper ventilation in summer, you have to construct a good natured houses with moderate heat storage capacity and use medium-sized windows. Now, looking at your external spaces, you could see that the topography, the south sloping is usually preferred. Now, the orientation so as to be benefit from the winter sun. And also it has to give protection from the winter winds. It has to form, the form should be semi-compact, and the hazards such as the floods, landslides, and falling rocks must also be considered in these spaces. So streets are actually best planned in the direction of the summer winds, avoiding the direction of their winter winds. So the outdoor spaces, as in all warm regions, should be actively used. It should be planned to provide a well-balanced mix of open sunny areas for the cold season and shaded well-ventilated areas for the warm period. So going about how overall the elements have to be planned is what we had seen. So now looking at your building design, the orientation and the room placement should be north-south facing. The form depends on the precipitation pattern. The shade in summer and heat gain in winter is necessary. Ventilation must be controllable. Now going on to it, the orientation of your buildings. The orientation of a building is greatly influences the solar heat gain. Normally, the building should have an elongated shape along the east-west axis. So what happens is that the southern front can easily be designed for proper utilization of the winter sun and for the protection against the summer sun. To achieve a proper sun penetration for natural lighting, the solar heat gain and the hygiene, the depth of the interior should not be too excessive. In upland areas, heating in winter becomes more important than cooling in summer. Hence, rather compact structures with minimal but proper sun-oriented exterior surfaces are desirable. Buildings may be large and grouped close together. The row houses or adjoining buildings may have to have the advantage of a reduced heat loss. Looking at this, we have your room arrangement. So what happens is that a moderately compact internal room arrangement is of benefit for the most of the year. The courtyard buildings are suitable. Terrace buildings facing south may also be appropriate. Whereas in case of a cooler areas, the exposure to the main rooms to the winter sun is essential. So whereas in the warmer areas, these rooms can also be placed north facing. If you look at your vegetation to counteract the winter wind direction, the evergreen windbreakers are also desirable. However, trees should not block the prevailing sun breezes, and evergreen trees are best for the wind production, whereas deciduous trees are suitable for the shading purposes. So you could see, understand like how even the vegetation also plays a major role to provide your overall shading, and also plays a contribution of, to help attain the environment in your building. So roughly looking at, the basic elements of how it goes about in different areas and zone, and how it's going to be in so and so conditions. How it is going to be in warm and humid composite climate and tropical upland climate, how it's overall goes about, how it's overall the major key factors to be included, or how it's going to be. So if you see like how composite climate, it's like it's a between warm and humid and hot and dry climate, and it's going to be a mix of both. Whereas these particular for the other areas, it's a defined climate. The precipitation, if you look, it's very high in warm and humid areas, and whereas it's very in desert, very low, and it's tropical, it's actually very variable. Looking also at your winds, your vegetation, and your special characters. Looking at your special characteristics of a warm and humid areas, you could see that you have a very high algae growth due to the humidity. The rusting and rotting is happening. The thunderstorms accompanied by frequent air-to-air electrical discharges. And actually, you have this also. You have tropical cyclones and cyclones. So, being in a humid area, you have a lot of humid. I mean, like hurricanes, and you have winds, and you have thunderstorms going about. Whereas in deserts, you have to end up having your dust and sandstorms. I mean, hot and dry areas. Whereas in your tropical composite has a mix of both. And in your tropical climate, you can see thunderstorms with fair proportion of electrical discharges from air to ground, and hail may also occur. Going about seeing the same categories in their subdivisions, like this is being like categorized for easy understanding about how each climatic factors plays about. So you have your warm and humid climate, and how the major factors goes about the special characteristics being the high this thing. You have a very high salt content in the atmosphere due to the coastal areas, and it's causes corrosion in this corrosion in your buildings and your nearby spaces or the materials that you have close by. And what happens is that in your hot and dry climate, you see the sun, dust and sandstorms. And what happens is that because of you have drastic temperature differences, well, your buildings may actually expand and contract, which may actually result in your materials to crack and break up. Going about to your humid areas, that is maritime desert climate, you have dust storms and sandstorms, and also you have salt content that would also result in your corrosion. Your monsoon being humidity being your mosses and termites and insects, and occasionally you have condensation problems also dealing with your monsoon because of your no proper, I mean like drying up of areas. So whereas in your tropical upland you have a heavy dew and you have a strong radiation loss at night and appearance of hail also. So looking at this final wrapping it up, we have this chart, I mean like elements put together about what is what and how it goes about to be. Warm humid climate, let's understand properly. You have the location between the 15-degree north or south of an equator as your warm and humid climate. The air temperature is not extremely high due to the cold cloud or the moisture in air reflecting direct solar radiation. The cloud or the moisture reduces the heat radiation from the earth to night sky. Small, you have very small diurnal temperature range, so you have to take into consideration of what how you actually build your building. So it has to be like should be able to sustain both in the morning and night. And you have a little seasonal variations, and you have high relative humidity. So humidity, you have to try and have proper airflow going about. You have heavy thunderstorms in the wet season with locally strong winds. So what is the kind of a roof that you have to have windows with proper overhang, so they have to sustain all this put together. Yeah. So going about with your tropical island climate, so some latitudes as warm humid climates but extending into the bands of the trade winds. So it's usually this climate is mostly seen in your confined to a small islands. It modifies of your warm and humid climate. It has high humidity in the morning, in evening sea and breezes, and you have to going on. So this wind contributes to clearer skies and the broken clouds. So what happens is that it creates a very comfortable and climatic conditions like beachy or tropical climate. Whereas in a maritime climate, you could see the same latitudes as a hot, dry climate, the most means the sea. It's a slightly lower temperature with the local lands and sea breeze. In a hot and dry, between 20 to 35-degree north and south of an equator in the bands of the air trade winds, little cloud cover and low humidity mean that the solar radiation is not reflected before it reaches the Earth's surface. So, and you have a high diurnal range due to the re-radiation of heat to the cold night sky. The hot daytime surfaces causes local air currents. Any wind is hot and dusty in this particular zones. So it has very little, being a hot and dry climate, it has very little rain, and which means that it does not come as an intense storms. But because of hot zone, it has mainly tropics. There is no noticeable seasonal temperature changes from the morning to the night. A composite going back again being a mix of both interiors of a large land masses between 15 to 35-degree north and south, categorized by hot dry climate for about 8 months and warm humid for the remaining period. Those further away from the equator may have a cool dry season, whereas a tropical upland climate above 1,500 meter to any latitude is same. So if you see, look at overall all these conditions, what we have seen is that they are trying to state that what exactly is the condition, what exactly is the issue with the particular condition, and what is required to it. So stating with all these boundary systems, we have also seen how each particular element or a building element can contribute to cut down it or to heighten or particular element of a climate. So if I want to have more heat gain, what is required for me to do? And if I want to cut off the heat gain, if I have to cut down the air movement, what is required to me to? So taking into all of these considerations and understanding this basic climatic classification, you can understand how to design or where to design and what are the requirements for this particular climatic zone. So this is what we have been trying to see in this particular topic. So this is what, so with this, we'll wrap up for this session. We'll continue on to the next session to go more in depth about this. Yeah. So we'll wrap this up. So we'll see you in the next session. Thank you.